All right, so today we're going to talk about stress, what it affects, and how to manage it. So this the reason why this is such an important topic is because we all go through it, and I think we all have a skewed perspective on what stress is, right? And we kind of just react to it, and we normally don't do anything about it, but we don't fully understand. At least you all don't fully understand how it actually affects your progress when it comes to fat loss, gaining muscle, any sort of strength gains, just anything in general, right? So stress is not just something that you feel in that moment. Your body has the everlasting effects of that over time, is going to be a detriment to what you're trying to accomplish. So without further ado, this is the first concept that I want to speak on. And just to clarify, just to make sure that you guys can hear me. Can someone give me a thumbs up in the chat that you can hear me okay? My volume's good. Even like an okay. Okay, there we go. Perfect. So allostatic load, what is that? All right. It's a concept. And by the way, for this class, if you guys are able to take notes, do it because I'm going to throw a lot of information at you. I'm going to simplify the wave tops. I might go deep into some things, but I promise you, you're going to get a lot out of this that you're going to want to touch back into. So, what allostatic load? Think of it like a pie. Okay, you see the circle? This is your pie. Everybody has the same size pie,
Peter,
100%,
Peter.
a whole pie. Okay. Now, depending how much stress you endure from different things, take away from that pie. So let's say out of 100%, my job is just so damn stressful that it takes 50% of my stress pie away. I now only have 50% of my stress capacity, my allostatic load, to put towards things like my family, training, nutrition, my sleep or lack of sleep, so on and so forth. So now I took 50% of my LSAC load, threw it away, right? Because it's being taken up by work stress. Let's say another 25% is just family, financial, whatever. So now I only have 25% of this pie. And with that 25% of this pie, you are trying to build 500 pounds of muscle because you're trying to turn into the Hulk. You're trying to shred body fat and get extremely lean for summer or whatever it is. You're in a caloric deficit. You're not sleeping, right? You're drinking all this caffeine. You're going out drinking alcohol. You're doing all these sorts of things with that little 25%. Okay. So that's the biggest thing I want you all to understand.
You guys
The
need to
more
wash it and
stressors
then
you
tint
have
it,
in your
right?
life, that Cena, can you shut off the vent? Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I thought it was a vent. Um, the more stressors that you have in your life, take away from that pie, and that little bit that you're left with is all you really have to allocate towards your fitness. So that's why managing your stress is going to be the most important way. And most honestly, most clients that come to me, managing stress is the first thing that we talk about. Most of y'all are doing way too much, right? You're working out too much, you're dieting too hard and too long, and you're not sleeping enough, you're not eating well enough, and you're, just ingesting all this caffeine and processed food and all that, and it's adding stress. So now that we have a concept of what allostatic load is, I want you to keep that in mind. Keep that pie. Think about your pie. How much of your pie is allocated where? And it will make more sense when I go through what things cause stress, how much you are taking away from your fitness. So there's multiple different types of stress. We'll cover physical. What is going to be considered physical stress? So lack of sleep or rest, right? Any of these listed here. Pretty much any time that you're physically doing something or you're taking something physically away from your body. Even being sedentary, even sitting at a desk job is physically demanding on the body because of the position that you're in. Okay. Not getting up to stretch, to walk, whatever it may be. Dehydration adds stress to the body. The body has to work harder with less. Even working out too much causes even more physical stress. For you law enforcement, first responders, even busy professionals, people who travel. I know we have a lot of social workers here. Like all of that stuff that you do physically plays into that physical aspect of stress that takes away from the allostatic load and has nothing to do with your goal. Now, mental stress. Again, this is equally as important. Okay, all of these issues here, all of these things, even moving to a new location, right? Even though you got it planned out, you're doing it. It's still something that weighs on your mind. All these things, which I'll explain, are perceived by your mind not as a threat, but it requires a heightened response. Okay. And that heightened response is essentially what causes a lot of the detriments that I'll go over later. But all these things, how you think, how you perceive things, right? This fight or flight mentality is all going to play into that mental stress aspect. So, what is the body's response to stress? Okay. You're going to have an adrenal response and a nervous system response, as well as all these other ones here. Okay. So, in the adrenal response, cortisol, we all hear cortisol. Cortisol is not necessarily a bad thing, and I will go over that later. It's just chronic and elevated cortisol. But cortisol is essentially the stress hormone. Adrenaline and noradrenaline, those are things that are going to affect the nervous system, which cause a response, right? Your insulin sensitivity and resistance is going to change, going to suppress hormones. This is all in response to stress. Okay. It's going to affect your thyroid, your digestion. So all of you here are wondering like, hey, why is my body not listening to me? Or why is my body fighting me? Or so on and so forth. Look at this right here. All of these things are probably what you guys are pointing to as to what's wrong. And guess where it's coming from? More than likely your stress. This last statement here, where it talks about a life and death scenario. Like this is exactly the kind of thing that you guys have to understand the body's going through. So you might be going through stress every single day and you're used to it, you're comfortable, but your body's still responding. Your body is still in a place to allow you to take care of those things. If your job is constantly stressful and you're in a constant state of alertness or hyperactivity, hyperfunction, right? Your body has to compensate. You might just be like, oh, this is just my normal job. Your body doesn't know. Your body is preparing you for what that is. And then at the end of that, you want to go work out and bust your ass for 7 days a week, and then you want to do it in a caloric deficit or robbing the body of nutrition, and then you don't want to sleep for 3 hours. So you guys have to understand what you think is normal. The body doesn't discriminate between normal and not normal. The body just responds and it gets burnt out. So acute versus chronic stress, all right? Acute stress is at times beneficial, okay? When it's beneficial is in response to something that requires you to be, let's say, again, more active, more metabolically active, more responsive to a situation. So, for instance, if I have, someone, God forbid, walks through my front door with a gun, I'm just giving you an extreme example, right? That's going to be acute stress, right? My body's going to do certain things and respond in certain ways to ensure that I protect myself and I can defend myself, right? It's not going to make me lazy and lethargic or whatever it may be. It's going to allow me to be able to attack that situation as best as possible. Same thing at work. If you have a meeting with your boss and he's like, okay, so and so, we have a meeting today at 9. We're going to talk about some serious things. You're going to be like, oh my God. Or you get this text from this guy or girl you're talking to, like, hey, we need to talk, right? It heightens you, it gets you alert. It's that acute response. Now, chronic stress is when it's a problem, when you're in that chronic state of alertness where your body doesn't have a chance to take a break. Okay. Your hormones, again, big piece of this, which we'll go over. Your digestion absolutely gets affected. Your immunity. So all you people who are sick right now, 99% of you are not just chilling on a beach, sleeping, enjoying yourself, getting sick. You are probably working a ton. You're not sleeping. You're surrounded by stressful situations. And that right there is what's causing issues. Okay. Inflammation. Inflammation is not just being injured, right? And having some sort of response. You can get inflammation from the foods you eat. Big one. Okay. And other processes and negative things in the body, right? Which affect the cells at the cellular level. And then mental fatigue is going to be another aspect of that. So let's talk about the gut. All you guys like to talk about the gut. I'm bloated, I'm this and I'm that. Like what you guys aren't realizing is the stress that you have in your life is exactly why your gut's messed up. It's not the foods you're eating most of the time. It's not that you have some specific issue. 99% of the time, it is because of the stress that you have in your body. And I will explain that. Okay. So when you are stressed and you are stressful in a stressful situation, look at right here. Blood and oxygen starts to flow away from your digestion system to go towards the muscles, the brain, and the places to respond to that stress. Digestion really slows. Now, with that, listen to this, it was a big piece. When digestion slows, guess what happens? You don't have those nutrients, the digestion slows. That food just sits there. It just ferments and it just gets broken down by the bacteria and sits. And it causes a lot more toxins. It causes those negative things that just sit there and fester, which causes more gas, which causes more bloating, more pain. Same thing with stomach acid, all right? You produce less stomach acid, which is a huge reason why people have digestion or gut issues. It's really, most of the time, a lowered amount of hydrochloric acid or stomach acid, all right? Again, going down into this, when you have lower stomach acid, lower breakdown of food, so that food is just sitting there, it's taking longer to do it, the enzymes are not able to effectively break down the food because you don't have enough of that bile or that stomach acid, and the uptake of the nutrients from the food you're eating is slowed down. So if you can see here, stress affects absolutely everything in your ability to uptake food and allocate it properly. So a lot of these issues you're having are tied to the gut, and I'll go into that a little bit further here. What is gut motility? It's just the movement of food through the intestines, essentially. Okay, so a lot of these types of IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, you have C and D. One is constipation, one is diarrhea, are affected because of this of the body's response to stress. These hormones, cortisol and adrenaline. So when you have a stress response, cortisol and adrenaline will rise and cause again some sort of IBS or distress because the gut is in that slower or lowered output state. When you have that slower motility, you also are going to have an overgrowth of the bad bacteria. Okay. And in addition, you're going to have a slowing or lowering of the growth of the good bacteria. This what dysbiosis is. It's the unmatching or the what do you call it? The misproportion of good versus bad. So when you start having more bad than you have good, and sometimes even more good than you have bad, that causes issues. In addition, because this food is sitting there, because you have the poor gut microbiome issues, right? You're going to have the food, the breakdown of the nutrients, all those things are going to be able to permeate or break through the intestine lining and go all over the place because it's just sitting there, right? Undigested food is exactly one of the main reasons why we have issues with our digestion, right? That's why I usually tell people how I ask them, like, how are you chewing your food? Are you eating it so fast you're just scarfing it down? Are you slowing down? Are you chewing it down into bits? Because that undigested large particle food does cause issues for your digestion. Talk about a little bit before about your gallbladder's important for the bowel production and flow. All right. So again, when that slows down, you have less fat digestion. So that fat just sits there again, causing more issues. This one right here, you guys have to understand. This gut-brain axis, the vagus nerve literally goes from your brain all the way into your gut. It talks. So when this whole thing right here, this brain is going under a lot of stress and it's dealing with a lot, guess what's affected? Your gut. Okay. 80% of fibers of that nerve go to the gut. Okay. And it helps to control exactly what we talked about what the digestion does. Break down food and pass it through. So when you put the brain under stress, you're also putting your digestive system under stress. Think about it this way. Fight or flight. What is it? Why is that even important? When you're in a fight or flight state, like let's say a lion is chasing a gazelle, right? You're going to stop digesting things. You're going to put all your blood and oxygen into the muscles to run away from that lion. If you're the gazelle, that's exactly what your body does. The body does not care so much about being healthy anymore. It cares about survival, and you are now in a survival state. And that prolonged survival state, that prolonged elevation of cortisol and adrenaline, is what causes the issues. Now let's talk about our sex hormones, okay? Pregnenolone is a precursor to creating to creating the sex hormones in both men and women. So if your body's creating more cortisol in response to stress, it has less that it can allocate towards pregnenolone. Okay, so essentially, cortisol goes up, all other sex hormones go down. Now, mainly it's going to be LH and FSH, which is responsible for testosterone, right? And I'm going to explain why that is important, okay? Also in women. But when you have this increased stress and you decrease LH and FSH, so essentially here's a brain, right, with just this little circle here, right? It sends a signal to the pituitary gland, down to the testicles, right, to produce testosterone. Those signals are called LH and FSH. So these are essentially precursors. These are the raw materials to create testosterone. So when you start suppressing this or bringing this down, guess what? You're going to have lower testosterone because of stress, because cortisol is elevated. In women, I know a lot of you guys have heard of this estrogen dominance. Guess what happens with stress? Cortisol increases, you lower the amount of progesterone that is being produced, and now you have an imbalance. A lot of y'all's menstrual issues and just issues in general when it comes to female health is going to be the dominance of estrogen. So stress is going to cause what? Estrogen dominance, because you're now not only not producing more testosterone, you're also not producing as much progesterone to counteract that, right? And there you have the reduced ovulation or just a more irregular cycle, all from stress, all from something that you don't put in your mouth, all from something that you don't drink, all that something from you don't pick up and put down. It's all from what you choose to do or what you perceive. It's that important. The thyroid, again, huge freaking topic. Stress is like it is synonymous with thyroid dysfunction. Okay. Cortisol affects the conversion of T4 to T3. Now, I'm not going to go give a whole thyroid lesson, but essentially, just like with the last slide, this whole LSH, FSH thing, the body works very simply. The brain, right, sends a signal to the thyroid to create T4, which converts to T3. Don't need to memorize none of that. Understand just at the end of the day that cortisol stops this conversion of T4 to T3. What T3 is actually what binds to the cells in the body to make your metabolism work. If you do not have T3 attached to the cells, right, you are going to have a slower metabolism. Cortisol directly affects that conversion from T4 to T3. So you have less T3. In addition, it also affects TSH as well, which is what starts even that conversion. All right. So what does this cause? Big time. Hashimoto's, Graves, 100%. A huge increase of diagnoses of this comes from the elevated cortisol and stress response. Your body senses this inflammation and starts to attack itself. Okay. Look at these right here. These pieces of the thyroid, which are why 99% of you are in this coaching program to begin with. Okay. Fat loss, energy production, and your metabolism. The thyroid gets suppressed, it's a no-go. Your body's not responding. Okay. So, talked a lot about cortisol. Again, what is it exactly? It's essentially a hormone. It's something that your body releases to throughout the body to act on cells in response to a stressor or other things as well. Now, exactly what it says here. There's good hormones and bad hormones. Just like they say good and bad cholesterol, which there actually is no such thing as good or bad cholesterol. It's just what it actually does. But when it comes to cortisol, a small amount of cortisol or cortisol in response to something that we need to do is not bad. Okay. When you wake up, you have a large release of cortisol because guess what? Your body releases blood sugar so that your muscles and your brain and all that can uptake that and use it as energy. All right. It slows down or speeds up both depending on how much cortisol is available, the metabolism, and it also helps to stimulate the sympathetic nervous system response. So these are all things that we think are important, right? We need to wake up. We need energy. We need something that manages our metabolism to speed it up and slow it down. We need something that also affects our sympathetic nervous system in the sense of our blood pressure and heart rate and other things, okay? The bad is when it's elevated and it's chronically elevated all the time, right? You start to have all those negative things that I spoke about before, okay? So how to manage it physical. Again, this is going to sound very elementary and it's just preaching the choir. And we've said it 5 million times, but I'm just going to sit here and continue to push it because one day it'll click in your brain that, you know what, I need to decide that my health, my fitness, my self-worth is more important than the obligations that create this stress. Your ability to manage your stress, you cannot eliminate stress, but your ability to manage it and allocate and manage that allostatic load is what your key to success is going to be. We're all going to be stressed. We all have the same 24 hours a day. We all have the same issues for the most part. We all have the same wins for the most part. But certain people are just more successful because they can manage that stress and they can prioritize the things that they need to take care of. Sleep. How much? Honestly, the hours vary person to person. There's some people who function extremely well on 4 or 5 hours. But don't trick yourself and just like, because I have to wake up in 4 or 5 hours because I have work and all these stressful things to do, I'm fine. No, that's a lie. That's not it. Go to sleep one day without an alarm and see how long it takes for you to wake up. That's how much sleep you need. Uninterrupted, good deep sleep. Okay. Quality over quantity, but don't lie to yourself and say, just because I have to wake up at 3 hours, you know, I can only sleep 3 hours a day. Like that's enough for me. It's not true. That might be enough for you to get what you need done, but that's not what your body needs. As far as exercise, a healthy balance. None of you guys will ever get a program from us as coaches that will put you in a state of physical stress that is overexerting you. Okay. That will never ever be the case. But that's why most of y'all who do too much end up hitting a wall and a plateau and end up suffering because you exerted yourself too much and created too much of a stress response, and your body's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Breathing, controlling your breathing is huge. You can not just trick, you're really actually calming your brain, your body down, but just by slowing your breathing down and being conscious of it and bringing your blood pressure and heart rate down can bring a lot of the physical stressors down. That's why meditation and stuff I'll talk about later are a big piece. Nutrition, not just how much you're eating, but the foods that you eat. When you eat these processed, crappy, artificially just spiked foods, and again, I'm guilty of that, but it's all about a balance, right? I do have my fair share of fun stuff. You create inflammation within the body. Guess what inflammation does? Causes a stress response. you start to damage the cells. You start to cause these issues because you decided to eat X, Y, and Z over and over and over again. Now the body has to respond to that. And you now have the double whammy of you ate the crap food and you're storing a lot of his body fat or you're causing insulin resistance. And now you have elevated stress levels because your body has to manage this fire that you just started. Hydration is a real big, easy one. Again, water is just extremely important for every single process in the body. When you're dehydrated, it's a form of stress. Okay. And proper supplementation. There's supplements out there that literally like help you at least with the physical aspects of stress. But when I mean supplementation is making sure you're taking care of all deficiencies. So sure, rhodiola, ashwagandha, and things of that nature might help alleviate stress anecdotally, but that's not how you manage physical stress. It's just again a supplementation, a piece that you can add. Almost done here. Environmental, got to get your sunlight. Okay. This sounds really, really bland, but honestly, having people that you can speak to, the community of members that we have in our group, okay, in the Precision Approach team, me, your family, your friends. That's why it's so important to have people on board. Just talking these things out, things that you enjoy to do. If you're not setting time aside for your hobbies and things you enjoy in your you time, you're robbing yourself of not just your own happiness, but you're robbing yourself of your fitness goals. We all work will always be there. They did an interview with I can't remember how many people. It's very, very famous, where they asked all these people on their deathbed, like essentially the question was like, what do you regret or what do you wish you would have done? Not one of them ever said, oh wow, I wish I worked more. They all talked about I wish I spent time with family more. I wish I forgave more. I wish I spent more time, with myself, with the ones that I love. Right. So keep that back in mind. I'm not saying your job's not important. It pays the bills, but like at what point do you need to create a boundary between getting the job done, fulfilling your role, but also saving time for yourself and your family? And I always say this, and I'm going to take a quick second because I have to have this conversation a few times this week. You taking time for yourself and betting on yourself does not take away from other people. It gives to other people because you show up better for them. You prioritizing yourself, a happy you, a fit you, a confident you shows up better for those people. A 50% you showing up all the time is not worth shit compared to 100% you showing up half the time. Keep that in mind. Got really passionate there. All right, I'm off my soapbox because I care about you guys. So this cold and heat therapy, again, just very instant, kind of just like in the moment ways of alleviating stress, but it's not going to impact the chronic stress that we go through. All right. Again, this is all just helping bring down the stress. If we can implement it in routine day to day, for instance, we eat better, we exercise just enough, we sleep better, right? We maybe spend some time with our friends or family or alone at times where it's going to alleviate some of that stress for us. Like all that is going to help, okay, over time. The mental stress, again, your perception. I know it's not easy to be like, oh, I'm positive, like rainbows and unicorns all the time. Life's not that simple, and it is freaking hard. But understanding how to break situations down, focusing on the positive, focusing on what you can control is extremely important. Therapy, meditation. I do therapy. I go to therapy. I will never not go to therapy. Even when things are good, I'm in therapy because I want to ensure that I have that support and I can have those conversations and I have someone else speaking to me other than this second voice you have in your head that is not the best person to be around all the time, right? When you want to change things or take risks or improve yourself, that little thing in your head is probably gonna tell you not to because it wants to keep you comfortable. So those situations are good to have either a therapist or that family support or wherever it may be. Boundaries, first and foremost, and the last and least most. Boundaries with family, boundaries with relationships, boundaries with work. You have set hours, stick to those set hours. You have a lunch break, take your lunch break. If there's certain conversations you don't like to have with people, don't have them. If you have a weekend, take a freaking weekend. If you're on vacation, don't answer your phone. All those sorts of things, you owe that to yourself. Okay. And it's going to pay dividends for you once you take that control and put your fitness and your health at the forefront. Again, you're not robbing anybody of anything. We're all fine. Everybody's only thinking about themselves anyway. So if you decide to disappear for a second and take care of yourself, guess what? No one's going to freaking remember. So at the end of the day, what's my point? Stress is not the devil, right? It has its perks. I like to operate in stress, manageable stress. I don't like when I'm overstressed, but I like to be in a situation where I have a lot of things going on. It's comfortable for me. But once you start to get comfortable and you start to lose sight of what it affects, that's when it becomes a problem. I mentioned a few tangible things we could do. We could talk about a little bit more in this Q&A. It is by far the reason why I put this, it is by far the most important thing for your fitness, especially for most of you all out there. Not many of you guys are bodybuilders out there who make it a lifestyle to compete and do that sort of thing. You want fitness to add to your life, right? You want this to increase certain things, whether that's confidence, your lifespan, whatever it is. So it is a choice that you have this in here. You need to make room for it. It is ultimately what is holding a lot of you back. And then just remember that pie. Remember me sitting here with this fake palm tree behind, talking about your pie. Think about your pie. Always think about your pie. Too many people take away from this pie and they want so much from this little last sliver of pie. They ask so much from that little sliver, and that's where the body's like, I can't anymore. Why don't you see how much you could take from the other bigger pieces of pie to allocate towards that? Or just ask less of that little slice of pie. All right. So I'm going to go through the questions that we have in the chat firstly. And then if you guys want to chime in via voice, we can do that. So, yeah, stress is hard for me. Got to slow down. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Is that why we take the apple cider vinegar? I'm wondering if that's probably reference to the hydrochloric acid piece. 99% of it is, yes. It also helps with your insulin sensitivity and your digestion as a whole. So that's why that is programmed in there, especially the aloe vera. Aloe vera is going to help when you ingest it, a lot of the healing, a lot of that permeability, the opening and the leakiness of the gut can be healed through the aloe vera. It's just a very like preventative but general way to attack that. All right. Great idea. Set an alarm. Yes, absolutely. Okay. So, yes, boundaries, absolutely. Now I'm open to questions for anything related to this or anything else. You guys have my undivided attention. And remember, my speaker's not super loud here, so speak up or you can type it in here. All right. What are some tips for managing stress during a prep? So I would say the good thing about a prep is it's very structured and you're very goal oriented. It's going to depend what type of stress. If it's physical stress, right? If it's affecting your look and your progress, that's where a coach will say maybe we need to pull back on things. If it's life stress, it's going to be the same way that we've managed anything else. So I would ask you to clarify that question for me. What you mean, like what stress? How impactful has therapy been for you? Me personally, it's been the greatest thing in the world. I will even say for my relationship, it's been the greatest thing. We're in therapy not because we're on the rocks or bad things are happening. No, I think the reason why we're in therapy is it allows you to open up conversations that you sitting with somebody else would never be able to have. There's conversations that you will have with a certain person, especially your family or significant other, that no matter what they say or how right they are, it's going to be triggering to you, right? And you're just hearing it from that person. But when you hear that person say it to somebody else in an environment where they feel comfortable and you feel comfortable and safe, it completely changes the dynamic of conversation. So therapy has been a complete game changer for myself and for my relationship. I've never been able to emotionally mature or just mature so fast because of it. I always advocate. A lot of you on here and a lot of my clients who watch this afterwards, I've spoken to you about how impactful therapy is. So, yep. What else we got? Yeah, Tierra, I definitely would. And again, therapy is not, it's got a negative connotation, but we have a lot of social workers in here, people who work with in the medical field. They will tell you that how impactful it really is. If someone's diabetic and they're trying to lose weight by eating healthy and exercise daily, why won't they lose weight? So we got to dissect this a little bit, right? So what does eating healthy mean? I can't tell you how many, and yes, a cortisol will be a factor in this. Eating healthy means so much to so many people. You can literally get fat eating healthy, right? It's just essentially at the end of the day, you could be eating too much. So I would say like it depends what does someone mean by eating healthy. If they're not in a caloric deficit at the end of the day, and again, it matters what you eat, and I'll go into that in a second. But if you're not in a caloric deficit, it doesn't matter how healthy the foods you choose are, you're not going to lose body fat. And 99% of the time, people focus so much on eating less, they don't increase their activity as well. That's why steps are so important. I literally preach steps so much to you guys. It's not because I just want you to get up and walk and go see the sunshine. I mean, that's a little bit of a part of it, but look at where we've come as human beings, instinctually. Like, what did we used to have to do? We used to have to go hunt for food. We used to have to go pick berries off like random trees. You have to walk everywhere. Now we have cars. Now we can sit at desks, right? So our bodies have not evolved much, but we have so much less activity. So steps are a way for us to increase the amount of activity we're doing to bring our body back to a place where it's going to use the energy that we're putting in. Okay. So when it comes to diabetes in general, what diabetes overall is, so you have type 1 and type 2. One is genetic, and one is going to be that's induced from poor eating habits, more body fat, et cetera, is going to be a blunted or a weakened response to insulin. Insulin is what your body releases. So your muscles essentially and other cells in the body, but mainly muscle, take up the blood sugar from your bloodstream. So when you eat food, your body converts it to sugar. That sugar, if it stays in your blood at elevated levels, it can kill you. So what does your cells do? They take that out of there. So what happens is when you get overweight and you eat these super sugary foods, is your body throws all this insulin out there, and over time it just gets numb to it, right? And you just have the inability to uptake the sugars effectively and also release them. So the foods that they eat are going to be very important. You don't want to chronically keep them in that heightened insensitive state of insulin, that heightened insulin insensitive state. So that's why carbohydrate intake and timing is very important. Bringing the body fat down is very important. So, very hard to pinpoint a very simple answer to you, but generally it's going to be because they have a lack of activity. And when I say activity, it doesn't mean they're going to the gym. No, if they don't have enough muscle, they're not training to build muscle. They're not eating in a way to build muscle to help them to uptake that glucose, right? And they're also making better food choices, but they're probably not in some sort of systematic uh, nutrition approach in a caloric deficit. And also, fiber is a big piece here. Fruits and veggies do so much for you. The sugar in fruits, fructose, does not create the same sort of insulin response that like table sugar would. So fruits are not really that bad. Yes, in large amounts, anything is bad. Cortisol, they're more than likely going to have an elevated state of cortisol as well, because their body's going to be inflamed. They have a ton of body fat, right? Their body's just in trouble. So they're just going to naturally be more in a stress response. All right. So, yes, therapy is awesome. Thank you, Nick. Yeah, if share Nick's going to be teaching a class here, maybe here in the near future, she can share what she's learned through that. Yeah, losing weight for diabetics is scatter data. Yeah, Chance here, he's worked in the medical field quite a bit, but it's is exactly this. It's the data that we're talking about here, and also the other factors that aren't really incorporated into to how they view this nutrition. Because my fuel schedule, it's hard to get all my hours of sleep from night to morning. Yeah, so naps are great. It doesn't have to be prolonged sleep, but again, how does that long nap affect your alertness and how you take things on later in the day? So, yeah, at the end of the day, if someone's like, okay, I can either get 4 hours straight or I can get 4 hours plus a 2 hour nap, like I'm gonna say take the nap. I would look at maybe managing your time different, prioritizing things to getting a full night's sleep. I don't know really many things that force you to work 18 hours a day. Like if you work overtime, again, with all for all our law enforcement officers, like you're choosing to do overtime most of the time. Like sure, you might be on call one day or at a call or something like that, and that prolongs it. But to be consistently in a state or a lifestyle where you have to make that, you're choosing that. And I think that there can be an approach to looking at how you're prioritizing your tasks. Again, as a business owner, right? Why do you think I hire coaches and virtual assistants and so on and so forth? Because I can do everything. If I have to do everything, I'm never going to sleep. But I would rather spend money, right, to hire people who are better than me and more professional than me at something, but also to take that off of me so I can better coach you all and provide you all better product. Same thing for you, Frank. I would look at how do you outsource? How do you make better use of your time? How do you outsource things to other people to take that load off of you so you can show up better? Are you going to be better as a business owner if you're showing up healthy, fit, confident, well rested, or if you're just running on fumes? Better question is how can I identify when you're stressed? Again, so yes, this is the thing, right? Constant stress is a norm. I would look at your how your body's functioning, your alertness, how you're performing, right? Look at your blood work, look at your physique. All those sorts of things matter. So if you're having a hard time losing weight, if you're not sleeping well enough, if you're not getting stronger, if you're not All these sorts of things are just indicators that you're going to be under stress. Again, when it comes to a prep, like you kind of expect to be in a heightened state. And again, a stressful situation that is temporary, and temporary could be a month, temporary could be 2 months. I've been moving, like I've moved 4 times in the past like 6 months. It's very stressful, right? But it's not going to be forever. That still affects me stress wise, but I'm doing other things to mitigate that. So you ultimately at the end of the day know what you can do. And I go back, Logan, to this piece. Your pie. Maybe prep is 80% of that pie, and you're just 20% is not that stressful. I'm sure working your job, if you were not where at the location you're at and you were back in the fleet or something like that, I'm sure it'd be hard to do both. It'd be even more stressful. So it's again, how big your pie is, right? How much of that pie you allocate where and for how long. We can share this video. Yeah, you can share this video. I'm gonna save it. I'll put the link in the group chat, and then it's gonna go in school too. The nap queen. All right. So consistency versus checking the back boxes, which would be the priority? That's a very good question. I would argue consistency. I would rather take a 70% plan that's 100% executable than a 100% plan 70% executable. It's like in anything. It's I know in prep I talk about checking the boxes, but what I'm really talking about is the consistency of checking the boxes. Does that make sense? So if we're talking about boxes that are once in a blue moon or just these, like today we just have more boxes, I would still make sure that I'm checking the small boxes every single day, because your body operates very, very well when it comes to having a systematic approach to things. If that, are you going to ask a question, Chance? I know you unmuted yourself.
Yeah, so and the reason I ask it like that is because I feel like the basis of a lot of the questions that you're getting. Can you hear me? Can you hear me fine?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, because I feel like the basis of the questions that you're getting are all kind of built around perfection and
Hmm.
having everything be very trite and concise. And I think that's causing it's funny. I think it's causing some stress
Yeah.
and a lot of people that are on the call. And I mean, even for myself, like I mean, me and you've talked about this shit multiple times. Still talk about it daily. Just kind of how like days are going, how they're not fucking perfect, and how everything doesn't seem to fucking add up, and it seems like I'm missing something here, missing something there. Um, but just kind of find like that middle ground where it's like, okay, well, we're able to accomplish A, B, C, and D
Hmm.
perfectly every single day. And if we can accomplish E, F, G, and H, then hell yeah, we've broken 70%. Like that's kind of adding to our consistency and we're checking more boxes through the day. But I think just I asked that question just because I feel like people are worried about being perfect
Yes.
versus getting the job done every single day to the best of their ability, kind of doing what they can.
Yeah, and I'll give you this perfect example. I speak to most people when I have your guys' consultation before you even join the program. I talk about setting the expectation, right? I say excuse me, we don't create programs that are unattainable or unrealistic. How defeating would it be every day if like you eat 2 times a day normally and you work out twice a week and that's all you have time for, and your coach was like, okay, well, you got to eat 6 times a day, you got to work out 7 times a week, and blah 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 blah. Like, you're like, I can't do this, right? So it's all about creating an expectation of what you can accomplish. Because if we were to give you a program that's just not realistic, it's going to add stress, right? There's power in creating something a little bit simpler and being able to manage that and consistently accomplish things. Because what that does, you start to build wins, you start to build confidence, you start to get results, right? And then we can increase that later instead of setting the bar so high. The other reason why that's important, okay, I even forget what I was going to say right there. Um, oh, you're going to get results. It might just take a little bit longer. What's wrong with losing the 50 pounds you need to lose in 6 months versus 5 or 4? You're going to get there, right? But at what cost? So, very good question. Very good point you brought up. The perfectionist thing, I'm a perfectionist. Everyone's a perfectionist, but it's all about where do you place that? Where do you put that? You don't need to be a perfectionist with these programs. Nobody needs you to be perfect. I don't ever ask you to be perfect. I just ask for progress. What do I like literally have freaking tattooed on my head when I talk to you? Progress, not perfection. 1% better. If we regress, okay, I don't need you to be perfect tomorrow. We just need to be 1% better than we were when we regress, and we'll build back up. Yes, maintenance of the fleet is constant 17 hours. That's why you apply for a disability rating for all the mental trauma that you got when you got out of the military. Like, I just got my rating back today. Woo. All right, Frank. Yeah, man. And I don't mean to beat you up. I'm not verbally beating you up. You're just a mature man for your age by far. I'm very impressed with you. One thing I'll tell you, a lot of business owners just get very scared to spend money to make money or to put trust into other people. Like bringing Nick on, it's a huge bit of trust for me to do that. But not only has she proved herself, but I also know that I need to also let go of some certain things, right? So that's an example of like, I can't do everything. I can only service so many clients. Otherwise, I'm going to take away. And I don't want to take away from you guys. I love you guys. I want to give you guys 100%. So in order for me to do that, I can now take a step back and have other coaches be able to service 99% of the solution where I come in and give my expertise. And it's still a great product. And we can change so many more lives that way. Tier, little things make a difference. Yeah, again, consistency is consistency. Can a heightened stress environment cause someone to become pre-diabetic? Yes, and that's because of the elevated cortisol. So remember, cortisol, what does it do? It increases the amount of blood sugar that goes into the bloodstream. And so what happens if your body doesn't use it up? It needs to retake it up. So insulin rises in response. And so you have a constant elevated cortisol, constantly elevated insulin response. And over time, it blunts the cell's ability to respond to that insulin. So yes, all these things play a factor. Yeah, poor blood sugar regulation overall. Yes, exactly. Yep, yep. And then again, when you start adding more sugar, actual sugar to your diet too, right, that starts to cause more inflammation and issues as well. So poor diet and stressful, yes, again, what diabetes in a nutshell, your body's inability to respond to insulin, and your body has to release more and more and more insulin for your body to respond to it. What causes that insulin resistance is going to be body fat, stress, lack of muscle, and just overall health. So yes, you can absolutely. There's plenty of people who are diabetic or pre-diabetic that you wouldn't even look at them and think that. My mom has been working out since she was 15, never been overweight in her life. She's been pre-diabetic her whole life, right? It's because of her eating habits and some of her lifestyle habits, alcohol consumption, and that sort of stuff. So that will all affect you. Yeah, and again, your job is extremely stressful. And you're young. Here's the thing, you're young, and the best thing that you can do is stay fit. You can work out, right? And you can put good food in your body. You're doing a lot of things to help combat that. But guess what? I'm sure you work with a lot of people who don't. They're probably testosterone's in the dump. They have no energy to do nothing. Their physique looks like crap. And then once they're out of the drill field, what do? They have the damage from the drill field and they just get worse. And then especially that's why so many people get out of the military and ugh, they're just done because there's nothing to hold them accountable, and their body finally it doesn't have that external stress, but it's been so damaged that they're just stuck. What else we got? Excellent questions. Yeah, and again, it's a learning curve. No one expects you to do it tomorrow. So, Frank, I probably just added another thing to your list to do. I apologize for that. That wasn't my intention. All right. If anybody has any other questions, please either put them in the chat or unmute yourself. When you unmute yourself and talk, it actually brings you up to the front of my screen. Still got plenty of time. Anything is fair game. You can ask about your specific program. You can ask about anything. I want you guys to feel. You can ask about why is a specific exercise in my program? Why do I have to eat this? Shoot, what I hear. I always hear, why do I have to have apple cider vinegar? I love that one. What else we got?
I guess it's a pretty basic question, but carbs are lowered on your non-training day because you don't need those extra carbs for your workout, right?
So not everybody has a training and non-training day. Okay, it's gonna be very dependent. I actually, if you go to my YouTube, Frank, I don't if you're not there, message me. I'll link it to you. I actually did a YouTube video on are pre-workout carbs necessary? Generally, they're not. But yes, for you specifically and people who have that, the 100 milliliters of aloe vera kills you. um, Honestly, it's just fact that the stuff that tastes the worst is usually best for you. I'm sorry. Except for cucumbers and mustard. That shit's fire. Um, so yeah, Frank, to answer your question, yes, it's like think about this is the best way to think about carbs. Okay. You are a car and you have a gas tank. The carbs is the gas, right? If you're not driving today, do you need gas? Not really, right? So that's also why weight training fasted is not recommended because you're now working out on half a gas tank, right? And then you're going to go through that gas very fast and you still have workout to do and you're not really able to give it 100%. Yeah, honestly, Tier, I love the apple cider vinegar. It wakes me up. It's just like taking a spoonful of just crap in the morning. But literally, guys, my routine, I'll wake up, I'll go to the restroom, weigh myself, go to the kitchen. I will literally take the apple cider vinegar in water, chug it, and I'm ready to go. Like, yeah, morning cocktail. That's the kind of attitude you need to have. How do you know when your client is ready to increase activity? Very good question. I actually was just thinking about this the other day because I noticed a couple clients' programs that I updated. I was like looking at them and I was like, you know what? We need to dig a little deeper, but I don't want to take away their food. So here's a perfect example. If somebody has a very slow metabolism, right, and they're eating X amount of calories, and it's not a lot of food, it's not a lot, but they're not hungry, they're not losing weight, so on and so forth, right? I'm not going to take food away from them. Their metabolism just isn't working. So think of your metabolism as this. Your metabolism, if it doesn't have the nutrients or food it needs to get things done, it is going to slow down. So that's why for a lot of people, I don't like to take food right away. Sometimes I do. But if you're eating a little amount of food and you're not hungry and you're overweight, like chances are your metabolism's in the dump. So I can't take more food away from you because if I take more food away from you and increase activity, now I'm just making the problem worse. Usually I'll increase activity if somebody is like not at a decent baseline. So if somebody's only doing cardio a couple times a week, even a few times a week, but very low. Their steps are very low. Like I will still get it to a certain spot before I start like actually systematically changing it, because there's a balance, right? If we're overweight, right, or have excessive body fat, like we obviously need to be in a caloric deficit. But that's why I say it's not just calories in, calories out. Because if your metabolism is slowed down so much, your calories out is lower. So in order to be in more caloric deficit, you have to take in less. But you already don't have enough food because you're eating like a bird, right? So it's like I need to fix your metabolism and gut first, right? That's where this priming phase comes with before I can start to take away food. That's why activity I like to look at first. I usually start at everyone at a baseline based off of what your intake form is, start you out somewhere, and then more times than not, unless I like 1 out of 1,000. Honestly, I've nailed people's food pretty damn much all the time. First plan out, but sometimes I might change their food because I missed it by a bit, but I'll usually increase the activity a little bit first. But again, it comes down to what is their job, right? How much stress do they have already? How much physical exertion are they doing? One of our teammates is working day after day after day, excessive amounts of overtime, like out in the field, out in the heat. How am I going to give him more activity? It's probably not going to happen. I'm probably going to look at other things to be able to do that. Hopefully that answered your question, Charity. And if I didn't, please ask. Should we be maxing out in our sets? Excellent question, Jasmine. So it's a bit of both, quality over quantity, but also the intensity. So while yes, you should be giving 100%, every working set, you should be giving 100%. But if you're pushing so hard that your form is crap, you're starting to use muscles that are stronger than the weaker ones in order to compensate or overtake that to get the job done. Like for instance, if I'm doing a chest press, like let's see if I can go this way, and my shoulders are pinned back, proud chest, right? I'm controlling the press and the contraction, right? Solid. But once I start, like in order to go to failure, I gotta like no, that's you're done. So when I say maxing out, your last rep should be done with pretty good form. It doesn't have to be perfect all the time, but with pretty decent form, and that's where failure is, in my opinion. So yes, your working sets should be done to the best of your ability, but that's also why I say don't chase the logbook. What I mean by that, you're not going to increase the weight and reps every single week and keep good form. There's some weeks or some times where I have to use the same weight in an exercise for 3 weeks sometimes, especially for my chest. I always bring up my chest because it's been a weaker point. It's come up a lot, but it's because I was training it improperly, training it too much with improper form, and I was increasing the weight too much too fast, right? So I would start to rely on my shoulders more and my triceps because my body was doing whatever it could to press, right? So that's a perfect example of like if you just never ending increase the weight, increase the rate, increase the weight, you're going to eventually start to compensate and mess up. So that's why sending videos of your training is so important. I will literally tell you, lower the weight, increase the weight, right? I'm telling you, like, when you guys don't send me, and I tell you guys on every check-in, when you guys don't send me a couple videos, like it's your loss. Like at the end of the day, like you can train for 3 years and then finally decide to send me a video, and then I give you like 10,000 different reasons why how you can improve, and you're like, yeah, I've been doing this wrong the whole time. That's how I've been for 10 years. I've been doing the wrong thing wrong for so long. Sickest pump of your life, pre-workout workout carbs. Yeah. So again, here's the thing with pre-workout carbs. If your gas tank's already full and you're just adding more gas, like it's not going to change much, right? So more people than not, their gas tank is pretty full. Your body fat can be converted to that gas as well, which is essentially what we want at the end of the day for those who are overweight. But yeah, if you are in any sort of less than a full gas tank state, that's where the simple carbohydrates, the very fast digesting ones, are going to help fill up that gas tank and get you going. All right. How do you help someone get over comparing themselves to bodybuilders on social media? Oh, this is great. I've learned this as a bodybuilder and somebody who's on social media. If you think I'm going to post a shit picture of myself, you're crazy. So first off, realize everybody's literally posting the best thing that they can of themselves. Now, I'm not very good with technology, so I don't really know how to do too much editing. But also realize a lot of people edit the shit out, edit their stuff a lot. And now with AI and like I honestly, I'm a sucker. I'm gonna get tricked into like so much dumb shit. I can't tell the difference between an AI video or not. Like some of these really crazy, ridiculous ones, like I get tricked all the time, and my friends are like, "Dude, that's AI." I'm like, I never know. So number one, you're comparing someone to somebody. You're comparing yourself to someone's best. You don't see all the lows. You don't see all the crap they go through. Even when it comes to like talking about steroids and stuff like that, I'll tell you guys straight up, I'm not natural, right? But what I can tell you is I know what everybody else is doing, right? So like I'm not going to compare myself to someone else's physique who is probably taking higher risks than me and doing things the dumb way, right? Not that it's to discredit them, but I don't know their full story. I also don't know, you also don't know who they are, how they are genetically. There's some people who are just genetically more blessed than you. No matter how much work you put in, how consistent you are, they're just going to be better than you. Right. But that, again, you should only compare yourself to you, especially as a bodybuilder. Your win should be showing up better the next time than you did the first time. Because you could just show up next time. There's just a freak of nature. Like you're just never going to beat that person. You never could. Does that mean that you suck? No. Right. So that's why bodybuilding, it can be such a mind F, is because you start comparing yourself to everybody else. Don't. Right. It has nothing to do with that. Max out effort, baby. I noticed Apple Watch incorporated my elliptical cardio session prescribed for the week and my step count. Yeah. So very good question. Your steps, and I need to do a better of clarifying this, are independent of your cardio. They're not what you do in your cardio. Yeah, my mind calculates it all the time. So what you do on the treadmill, Stairmaster, or elliptical is not counted into your steps. Now, don't message me after this, but oh my God, Ian, I've been screwed up, blah, blah, blah. Just change it starting tomorrow. Not a big deal. Okay. And you can even just let me know, hey, I've been hitting my step goal based off of incorporating my cardio. You said that it's not. I just want to let you know that. No harm, no foul. We don't need more stress. It's okay. We'll work it out. Also, welcome to the team, Bridge. Pre-exhaustion exercise. Pre-exhaustion. So what pre-exhaustion means to me. So there's a difference. I think I know what you mean, but I'm just going to attack the pre-exhaustion. I don't want to pre-exhaust anything that's going to help me work what I actually want to work. So like, I'm not going to do like 30 sets of bicep curls before I work my back if I'm trying to bring up my back, right? But what I will do, and a lot of you guys have, that's why you can't hide in videos. Yes. Dude, I don't know, man. AI is crazy. AI is crazy. Um, what I do kind of think where the picking specific exercises, especially smaller muscle groups before, is useful is like, think about it this way. For me, a barbell squat, if I were to do like an actual barbell squat, it would take the world for me to get ready for that, right? But am I going to be more prepared to do a barbell squat if I maybe do some hamstring curls before, some adduction, maybe some lunges, some warm-up exercises before, or like even if I was going to failure, but like smaller muscle groups, I'm probably going to be better off on doing that barbell squat versus like the amount of warm-up that I would have to do to get my body in position to do a barbell squat if I didn't do exercise before would be insane. I would probably spend an hour doing that. I actually asked my coach, my training coach, Nick Gloff, the other day, this exact thing. I was like, hey man, why don't we want to train the muscle group we want to improve the most first? He's like, yes. But for instance, try doing a hack squat to max failure for your first set of the whole day. Like just go warm up, do a little foam rolling, and go do that. It's gonna suck. But if I can get some blood into the supporting muscles, if I can start to get some mobility in there, it's going to allow the me to be able to do that exercise better. So long as those muscles aren't going to take away, like, is a hamstring really involved in hack squat? Not really, not really. Is adduction, if I tire my adductors, is it going to really mess my quads up or impact my quads? Not so much, right? So it's a plug or play. Now, if I burn out my triceps before doing bench, it's going to affect it. So it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. All right. So what do I do? Okay, good question. So this is what I do. With the elliptical, right now my cardio is at 25-minute sessions. I know if I do the elliptical or actually the treadmill, it's pretty equal. For 25 minutes, it's 3,000, around 3,000 steps. So what I would do is literally look at how many steps you are before you got on the elliptical and look how many when you get off. And that's just the average. Let's say it's 3,000. So you just know at the end of the day, the days you do cardio, subtract 3,000, or just don't have your watch on, right? But then it's hard to keep your heart rate. Very, very good question. Thank you for answer or asking that one. Can you be overstepping? If you mean, can you be doing too much steps? Yes, you can. Um, Again, steps are very low impact. Steps are a more passive way of creating activity, but yes, you can get tired from doing too much of that. I just like to incorporate steps because machine cardio is, especially when it gets to higher amounts and higher intensities, it can be just as taxing and fatiguing as a weight training workout. Failure leg extensions to hack squat. Yeah, so that's exactly it. Like again, a leg extension is the only exercise you can get the knee into full extension and activate the whole quad versus a hack squat. There's some people who, yeah, I will do a leg extension before I do a hack squat. Like I think right now, no, not right now. I do leg extensions after, but there was a point where I was doing them before. It kind of just depends. Like, what do you want to build, right? What are you trying to attack? What if you like doing long ass walks in your cardio, but you're past your step goal because of the type of cardio? Again, kind of like answering Frank's question, you can definitely do too many steps. Again, if you're doing stuff more than what I program for you, you just make it harder. I can't account for that variable and I can't make proper adjustments. So I know people get excited and they want to do more and more and more, but like all you're doing is you're running your body clock down faster and your body's going to shut down sooner. That's why I give you just enough to get results and keep you there. It's like starting up an engine in the car, got to warm it up before you drive. Yeah, and again, like there's some situations like where yeah, pre-exhausting or doing a isolation exercise before combat is good. Like I said, I always do right now. I do adduction and I do like the good girls and I do hamstring girls even before my big quad movements. Because A, my hamstrings can always come up more, so they're the first things that I'm doing, and my adductors can come up more, and they allow me to be a bit more mobile, get more depth on my quad exercises. All right. Anyone know if Apple Watches overcount steps? I don't know, man. Maybe you're like patting what are you doing? Happy feet while you're at desk. Not really sure. Is fasted cardio in the morning better than cardio after workout? I personally think fasted cardio is always better when it's low intensity. I wouldn't do high intensity. I wouldn't do high intensity so much fasted. You still can, but the reason why I like separating cardio sessions is because let's say you drive to the gym, you warm up, you weight train, then you cool down, then you got to do cardio, then you got to stretch, then you got to drive home, then you eat. So you're just adding more time before you can get good nutrition in. And again, if you separate the cardio and the training, that's stress here, versus like all stress at once is actually going to compound it. So again, I do right now for sake of convenience, I do my cardio post workout. I do my steps in the morning. I like to just take a walk, do work on my phone, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm gonna take a picture of that. I personally think once your cardio gets to, I usually tell people once your cardio starts to get to about 30 minutes per session, you want to start thinking about splitting it or putting it on a day that's not you're not weight training. All right. Any other questions? I got time, so we're not doing shit. But is walking to the gym 1.3 miles lift and walking back bad? No, 1.3 miles is like, what is that? Maybe 2,600 steps. Like, not bad. I would just ask, hey, do you feel like it's taking away from your training? If it's not, then no problem. Especially if you're walking. Walking is very mundane. If you're like, I'm running 1.3 miles to the gym, I'm like, yeah, I probably shouldn't do that. How much time should we wait to eating each meal? So it depends how many meals you have, right? As well as your hunger cues. You really just want to look at spreading things out evenly because a big part of why I like to give more meals in smaller amounts is because the amount of work your digestion has to do. Think about it like this. 3,000 calories eating one meal a day, 3,000 calories eating 3 meals a day. That one meal of 3,000 calories is going to bog your digestion down so much. You're just going to feel lethargic. You're going to have a ton more inflammation. It's just going to, you're not going to, what's the word? You're not going to draw out and allocate the nutrients as effectively versus you spread it out. You don't have those high insulin spikes, the high hormonal responses. You don't bog down your digestion. You're able to use it more efficiently. So really timing, like it's more so, A, where does it fit in your schedule? Like if I'm eating 3 meals, I don't want to eat breakfast, eat 2 hours later, and then not eat for 10 hours. Like that's not good. Like just move that middle meal, right? So you want it to be as even as possible. You just want your body to be in a constant state of digestion. It is good when it's okay when there's lulls, but you don't want to have these big influxes of traffic and then ease it out. If I'm eating 4 times a day, do you recommend waiting to eat breakfast as late as possible? So no, it's okay. Even though I answer, I'll expand a little bit more. It again depends on your hunger cues. I definitely don't think you should wait more than, again, I hate to put a hard number because it depends, but like for instance, I wake up at 6. I don't eat breakfast till 7:30 because I wake up, go to the bathroom, do my whatever, and then I get about 30 minutes to an hour steps depending on how much stuff I have to do. And then I'm usually eating at 7:30, like an hour and a half. I'm hungry from the second I wake up, but I'm doing something. Um, Sometimes, it might be a little bit later, but like I will say, you've been fasting the whole night. Your body's starving for protein to begin the muscle protein synthesis process and refill that gas tank. So, like, eating sooner the better. But yeah, when it comes to managing the hunger cues, it's okay to move it. It's just what a lot of people will do in prep is they'll starve themselves all morning just to get cram these meals, and that messes their digestion up big time. It's okay to split the snack meal. Again, if this is for a convenience thing, at the end of the day, it's the snack meal for you is essentially just like ability to have a little bit more flexibility and choose what you're eating. So let's just say in general, is it okay to split a meal? I would say it's better than not eating it for sure. If it's for the sake of hunger, that's okay. Again, it just kind of depends on that timing and not just like filling up 1 or 2 times where you're just eating a ton of food or not eating a ton of food. You eat breakfast late. Okay. I mean, again, like I said, is it the end of the world? No, but like why do they call it breakfast? It's breaking fast, break fast. You've fasted all night. Your body has nothing. And so now you want to ask the world of it. Probably not going to do so well. So I would definitely look to prioritize a solid or respectable breakfast time. If you want help working with that, just shoot me a message and we can talk through it. Anybody else? Yes. Salute to you, Michaela. Stud. No problem, Meyer. You're the man. Anybody else got anything last minute questions? Again, I got some time. I do want to say those who stuck around, even the ones who had to leave early, appreciate you guys, all of you guys' attendance and questions. So, with that being said, we'll go ahead and end the class. Again, very, very beautiful class. If you guys have any feedback for me on the class or things that I can improve, maybe speak a little slower, maybe not give so much information or cuss so much, whatever it is, I'll appreciate it. But we will talk soon, all of you, and have a great, great Wednesday.